to the Chicago corner. You were in Chicago for 6 days. You took
back.
a train. You sent us pictures from what I thought was a Bennigan's. Tell us about it.
It was great. The train ride there was 45 hours. It was 5 hours longer than scheduled. The issue was I learned a lot about how Amtrak only owns 3% of the rails that they use in the country. The other 97% is owned by different freight train companies. And so they pay the freight train companies to use their rails. And then there's supposed to be, I had a lot of downtime, clearly. There's supposed to be a law that the passengers
I just imagine you next to the engineer, like, so tell me, how many rails do we get to use? He's like, I have to drive the train.
He's like, please leave me alone.
Please sit down.
Also, we're not serving coffee after 9, so stop asking. But according to the Amtrak blog that I was deep in, apparently there's a law that passengers have the right of way on Amtrak, but freight trains never obey that because they've only gotten in trouble once in 30 years. So whenever there's one railroad and an Amtrak train and a freight train, the freight train will just go because they know the Amtrak will stop. And so we were on the way there constantly having to stop for freight trains. Now, what caused the 5-hour delay was, I guess the day before, a freight train tipped over with a bunch of Audis, a bunch of brand new cars. So not only were they removing the freight train off of the rails, there was 10 new cars that they also had to get off of the rails as well.
They selling those cars cheap? They selling those train dumped cars cheap?
I hope so. Probably marked up. But yeah, so that took 5 hours, but that was early enough in the ride that I was kind of in the honeymoon phase because I got the one with my own little room and bed and stuff.
What's that? Can I ask what's that run you, or did you? We specifically talked about how you didn't want to talk about what that.
I'm too embarrassed to admit it because it was too much.
Okay,
but
sure.
and to the point where I loved the Amtrak. I really want to do it again. I told friend of the show Carl Tart and Hassan Williams, and they both said you're an idiot.
I've done it, Kevin. I've done it. I've been that idiot. I've done it in America because I was so romanticized by Japanese trains and European trains that I thought I'd have the same experience, and I spent maybe 5 times as much for a terrible experience.
That's
so
what
I've
I
been there
did.
with you. You did it once, though. You got to do it. You got to try it.
And it really was the journey was amazing. The scenery, I'm very into a relaxing trip more so, and we've talked about this, than a busy trip. And so having 2 days before and 2 days after where I could just lie down and just enjoy the views, to me, that was worth it.
Not talk to anybody.
Yes, exactly. A delay on an airplane where there's 200 people yelling at each other versus 200 when you have your own room and you don't have to deal with anyone. That was really nice. And I should preface this with a huge reason I did this is because I'm trying to do a better job of reducing my carbon footprint. And I was flying a lot for work before this, 2 years before this for podcast touring. So I wanted to be a lot more mindful of how often I was on planes. And I'm not saying I'm never going to be on a plane again. I'm actually going to be on one in a month. So kind of immediately evening it out. But
just taking steps where you can, where you don't have to be somewhere at a
yeah,
specific
and
time.
so to
That's
me,
smart.
spending the money was more to trying to be more mindful of being greener. So I am glad I did it, but maybe in the future, Carl was suggesting, you could try to rent an electric car that might be a similar price. And I was interesting. So I was looking into that for future trips and stuff. Overall, train was awesome. They had vegan meals and that came with the ticket too. So I didn't have to pay extra for that. So that was really cool. And then my second night in Illinois, I stayed at my best friend's place in the city in Chicago instead of Naperville. And there was the worst tornado in Naperville since 1977 or something. I was getting a overwhelming amount of texts from people asking if I was okay, my family was okay. We were. However, there were houses that were completely destroyed. I was sending Tawny and Andrew photos. It was
insane,
wild. So that was interesting. And then the quick little story I'll say is I went bar hopping with my friend. It was so much fun. We went to this little a brewery, and then a bar, and then a brewery and stuff. And then probably on which after this became the last bar on our little trip was we were in an outdoor patio, and I walked to the bathroom and immediately clocked I did not have my phone in my pockets. And I was like, okay, it's fine. It's on the table with Chris. And then I came back and our table was cleared and Chris was gone. And I was like, no. And then I look over and I see him standing by the door, and I'm like, okay, I guess we're leaving. So I walk over to Chris. He's on his phone, and I say, hey, man, you have my phone? And the moment I say this, I realize that's not Chris's phone. And then I realized this is not Chris.
You recognized the phone before your friend.
Yes, I did. Pretty sad. But a man who, in the same shirt, same hairstyle, mind you, I'm a couple drinks into, turns around and looks at me, and I just go, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I thought you were my friend. And then I look at a table near where I thought we were, and I see my friend Chris looking at me like with the face of like, what the fuck are you doing? Get over here.
Who are you talking to? Why are you asking if he has your phone?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I did it so casually too, like, hey man, you have my phone? And he was like, what?
The fuck?
Yeah.
I didn't steal your fucking phone, man. You get into a fight.
Yeah. So it went from 0 to Chicago pretty quickly because I immediately was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I thought you were my friend. And then to kind of defend myself, I was like, to be honest though, you do kind of look like him. And I start
Kevin.
Yeah.
You're telling this man, you're not unique. You look just like him.
Yeah, you look just like him. Now, why I think this guy got mad is because he is a lot more muscular than my skinny little white friend. And as I'm walking away, he like looks at Chris and then looks back at me and shouts. He goes, yeah, if I had a hat and mustache. I was like, I don't know what to say.
That's very good.
This is 0 to Chicago.
Yeah.
Instantly.
Simply wonderful stuff.
So
here.
I crawled back to my friend, and he was like, I think it's time to leave.
Yeah, you got shouted at in a bar. Congrats, man. I haven't been shouted at in Chicago bar in a long time.
It was fun. And then every bar that Tawny texted me, are you guys here? Are you guys there? I would tell my friend, or then like later his girlfriend came and I was like, you guys been to this bar? Every bar that Tawny said, I would ask them. And every other bar, one of them would go, oh my God, don't remind me. Like hands and face.
I was half joking, but sometimes it did look, you were drinking a punch bowl type drink, and the only time I remember having one was at a Bennigan's, and all of them are closed. So I was like, Kevin, did you find a Bennigan's that's still open?
The Bennigan's?
I was drinking I think what you would call a massive glass of White Claw rum, and it's called I Fought the Claw and the Claw Won.
Wait, it was White Claw and rum?
There was like 4 or 5 different alcohols in it.
No.
It was ridiculous, but
the Claw would win. Yeah,
the Claw won that night.
Oh Jesus! Where else did I text you that you? I was like, what are you gonna do? Go drink 40s in a Portillo's parking lot after this?
Yes.
Where are you guys going? Sound bar?
Yes. There was a few where I was like, have you guys been there? And they're like, oh, don't remind me. Club Neo.
Yeah. Oh, Club Neo closed. That was legit my spot, though.
Yeah.
Andrew, that was a goth industrial club, but it was very welcoming to all types. It was very queer friendly. It was the only like dance club that wasn't like a bottle service snotty club crowd. And you could just go and dance. And there would legitimately be people in like full bondage. There would also just be actual witches just conducting spells on the dance floor. And then there'd just be like 3 people that look like us just having drinks in the corner. It was my favorite place. Just playing a bunch of Kraftwerk Japanese B-sides.
I sent you both a photo of, oh my God, what place? The Naperville place. Zero Gravity, which is now
Zero Gravity
a medical
now like
center.
A Sutter Health Hospital. It's very corporate hospital looking. That blew my mind.
Yeah.
Oh.
The cost of gentrification is everywhere, is the thing.
It truly is.
And then the last thing is we went to a skate park in Grant Park on like National Skate Day or something we didn't know. So there was like 200 skaters, and a man and his adorable little puppy came up to us. And then my friend was like, can I pet your dog? And he's like, yeah, absolutely. And he went, my friend Chris went, how old is she? And he went, yep, 10